Michael J. Saylor, I think J is, is his second name, is currently owning 3.2% of all Bitcoin, and he wants to own, when Bitcoin is at $1 million, 5% of all Bitcoin, and get seated if Bitcoin reaches, or like not if, when Bitcoin reaches 10 million US dollars, Michael Saylor wants to own 7.5% of all Bitcoin. This is the video I saw today. I was like, this is the topic of today's live episode. This is freaking interesting. And so, as you might have noticed, I'm not in my normal studio. It's Christmas, so I feel like we should put on the Christmas decoration, the candy frame, as it's called here. This will be a small series of live stream done in a Christmassy environment. The audio will not be as good, the video will not be as good. I'm hoping that I can release it every single day at the same time, but I'm really looking forward to also doing it on Christmas. So hello, and how are you doing, guys, in the chat? And also welcome to everyone that watches the replay. This will be freaking awesome, will be really interesting to look at today. Before we get into that, as I'm aware, there's always someone that might not know the full history. But by the way, give me a quick thumbs up or something if you hear me nicely. I haven't tested out the studio here like a lot, because I just came in here like an hour ago. I'm really hoping that everything works out and you guys hear me, and the connection is quite stable. But before we get started in the whole topic, I think we have to cover something. I think we have to look at the track record. Before I look at someone's person's opinion, what he's saying about the future, what he is doing, I really like to dive into what has he said in the past, and is this thing actually happened? How good was his track record in the past? And this is something that I've noticed with Michael Saylor. He has one of the best track records ever. He predicted domain names that they are being really, really big. He predicted the mobile wave, so like Apple, Facebook, and all of that, and also Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin, his play is already playing out in over 5 years, and he has massive returns. Now I just wanted to show you some clips to kind of highlight who Michael Saylor actually is and what kind of authority we can give him, or what kind of track record he actually has. Now this is from guys, so you guys also can see it. This is from guys that I always see, the All In podcast, a very famous podcast, and they are talking here about Michael Saylor. And it's funny because here Chamath Palihapitiya, probably pronounced it really badly, said that Michael Saylor is the best investor for being massively long in Bitcoin. And he was asked the question, who do you think is the best investor right now? And let's look at the clip and what he kind of said.
Created this massive. Who's the best investor of 2024 in your mind, besides yourself?
I was going to say me, but
we know.
I'd give it to Michael Saylor. I think that.
Whoa, Bitcoin.
And did you hear the massive crowd? Like, people did not anticipate that, because that's not a Bitcoiner crowd. Yes, there's probably some Bitcoiners in there. There are probably some Bitcoin maxes in the back somewhere sitting, but they like going, wow, like he mentioned him. It's just like massive to see people that are not as popular or like not as famous as just being the Bitcoin guy. Yes, Chamath really is since 2013 in Bitcoin. He bought Bitcoin with his funds. He's not a no-name when it comes to Bitcoin. But him mentioning it that in that frame is really, really interesting. Now, I wanted to show you an old kind of small thing of Michael Saylor. It was really fun to see him in this setting. Here, Michael Saylor is when Bitcoin, like when it was his book. So it was around 2012 when his book came out. And this was not as he said 12 years ago, it was like almost 13 years ago at this point. So this was really interesting also for me to just look at like who's actually Michael Saylor and what track record he already has. Let's go.
Speech, and you said the winner mobile is at the moment Apple, Apple, and Apple. That's how I understood it. And the rest is basically playing second viol or doesn't know how to basically get into the market.
Well, I think we're chapter 1 of the mobile wave, and there's probably 12 chapters. Apple's the winner of the first chapter by far. I mean, you could say we're in chapter 2 or 3, and maybe Apple won the first chapter and the second chapter. But there's actually more chapters of this book to unfold, and there are going to be other opportunities and other networks. For example, mobile identity, mobile commerce, mobile health. And as those things come along, it's not clear that Apple will be the winner. There may be other companies that we don't notice yet that are going to come.
Okay.
Here the point is just like he predicted very early on that Facebook will be massive, that Amazon will be massive, that Apple will be massive. And he wrote this book, The Mobile Wave, where he went into like who's the winner, like what he's kind of predicting. This was back in 2012, if I'm correct. The Mobile Wave, I think I've have it here somewhere. Yes, here. This is the Mobile Wave, was primarily refers to Michael J. Saylor's 2012 book, The Mobile Wave, How Mobile Intelligence Will Change Everything. I love the technology, how he actually framed it. And this argues that the mobile devices will come to world universal computing platform and transforming all industries as companies become software driven. He even talked about the iPad being massively important, that they have business intelligence on there, that they have consumer goods on there and all of that, the MacBook and all of that, what came after that. This is basically mobile wave. And yeah, he talked about the mobile wave in 2012 when not that many people talked about that. And now everyone is running like that. Like I was yesterday out shopping in Vienna, and I was running around and I almost crashed into like 5 people that were running like that on their phone through Vienna. It's crazy how interacted people are with their phones. And I think not news on this podcast here, but it's just like he sees things before things are happening, or while we kind of see things are happening. Another thing he is known for, or not as known for, like it was not news for me, but it was news for me like in 2022 or something like that, when I learned more about Saylor. He owns a bunch of domains. So what he did is very early on, seeing that everything is going to be on the internet, and buying a bunch of domains like alert.com, AFA.com, courage.com, and one of my favorites is speaker.com. There's a lot of use cases you can do with that domain in itself and create really big businesses around it. Frank.com, Chloe.com, Mike.com, Wisdom.com. Obviously, Mike.com is fun. I think he should put something on of his own on there at some point. But yeah, this all. Oh yeah, like he also sold Voice.com in 2019 for like $30 million. He probably could even get a little bit more for that right now. It's just I just wanted to show you guys this because he has a massively good track record of predicting what's to come in the future. And now here he's currently at like around 3.2% of the total supply, and that's what he's saying right now. Just in, Michael Saylor, I love by the way the meme just in. Every single tweet that has something with someone speaking, it's always just in right now. Michael Saylor says Bitcoin goes to $1 million if strategy can accumulate 5% of the total supply. At 7.5%, it's $10 million. I don't know why he wrote 7%. I think he said 7.5%. Think of us as powering the network up. That's interesting. Let's see what he actually has to say here.
$1 billion. We're up to 3.2% of the entire supply. It cost us $50 billion to get to 3.2%. You know, I'm thinking that the next $50 billion won't get me 3.2. It'll probably get me 1% or less. And I'm thinking if I come up with a few $100 billion, I might, you know, what I've said is if we get to 5% of the network, Bitcoin's going to be $1 million a coin. If I get to 7.5% of the network, it'll be 10 million a coin.
So think of it as I'm buying something getting exponentially more expensive using exponentially more money. And where do we top out? You know, I think we top out between 5 and 7.5%, and then we just exponentially slow down, right? And the rest of the network is right now it's, you know, after $100 billion of money from BlackRock and 50 billion from us, 85% of the Bitcoin is held by the OGs.
Exactly.
After the next $1 trillion from the big institutions, maybe it'll be 75% will be held by the OGs. So think of us as powering the network up, and we're pushing against an exponentially hardening asset. And that's the way it should be. Look, 95% of the Bitcoin's been mined. By the year 2035, 99%. That last 1% of Bitcoin comes out between the year 2035 and the year 2140. It's 100 years to get the last 1%. And so we look at it like that, and we will just be like the little engine that could. We will keep, you know, turning the crank.
And this is the phenomenal thing with Michael Saylor. He just keeps on going. And I will show you also what he's doing right now. It's fascinating, the connection with the banks he's fostering, and also just like keep on adding Bitcoin. I personally think he will buy more. Another 10,000 Bitcoin will be announced probably tomorrow. I show you the tweet why I think that. And now the interesting question that always comes up. This is always when I'm in conversations with new Bitcoiners or like pre-coiners that ask me, okay, like this one guy, this one company owns 3.2% of the network, wants to own 7% of the network. Isn't that massive centralization if just like one company owns so much? And the question is fair. Like it's not an entirely bad question. It's not something that like, yes, we should probably care about that Bitcoin is distributed. It's probably a good idea that as many different people as possible have Bitcoin. I want not only corporations to have Bitcoin, I want everyone to have Bitcoin. But we cannot choose who owns Bitcoin. Bitcoin is permissionless. And the worst thing, I think Jeff Booth said that, the worst thing about Bitcoin is that even your enemy can own Bitcoin. And that's actually a good thing about Bitcoin, but the framing of that is like interesting. It's like even your worst enemy can own Bitcoin and is benefiting from it. And so if you look at that, when we look back at, could that be a problem? Is there a centralizing problem in Bitcoin where too many people and too few people have too many Bitcoin? And I don't think so. And I will show you the data because I will show you the data that I actually saw. Now we have here this graphic. Can I make this bigger? Open image in a new tab. Let's see. Yes, I will share it bigger. This here is, I also have to share it. I'm on one laptop, so sorry guys if it's a little messy today. I saw this today, and then I was like, okay, let's look at the data. What's actually the data showing us in how distributed or how decentralized the ownership of Bitcoin is? Now, one thing before we get into this, one thing that I have to mention, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how distributed the ownership of Bitcoin is for the decentralization of Bitcoin. It's two different things. So we have on the one side the decentralization of the network, the Bitcoin network, the payment rails, the Bitcoin network that we love, that we need. And then we have the decentralization of Bitcoin, the asset. Those are two different things. Bitcoin is a proof of work mechanism and proof of work system. It's not proof of stake. For example, in Ethereum or many other coins, they are proof of stake. If a bunch of people have a lot of Ethereum, they have a lot of power over the network. It doesn't work like that in Bitcoin. If you have a lot of mining power, if you have a lot of full node operators, then you have a more say in the network, like 100%. But it doesn't mean that if you have a lot of Bitcoin, that you have more say in the network. It just doesn't translate like that. And so having, even if someone has like 40% of all Bitcoin, which would be terrible, but even if this would be the case, this wouldn't be bad for decentralization and security of the actual Bitcoin network. Now, if you look back here at the chart, we have here the Bitcoin ownership distribution of a company that I highly respect, River. They made this in August 2025. So on the 25th of August in 2025. And yes, there will only be ever 21 million as they write here. And here we see how they are distributed. First of all, when I first saw this chart, I was like, Patoshi? Who's Patoshi? I will quickly explain to you. 4.6% of the supply is owned by Satoshi or Patoshi. It's about 1 million Bitcoin. Now we have this here. I wrote it out for you guys. This is not a person. It's Patoshi is pattern plus Satoshi. This is like a mining pattern. And what it is a distinct mining fingerprint found in Bitcoin's earliest blocks between 2009 and 2010. The discovery identified by Sergio Lerner via block timing and extra nonce patterns. Who it likely is, it is Satoshi Nakamoto. It is not proven. So we always talk about this 1 million Bitcoins that Satoshi Nakamoto has. We are not 100% sure that it's actually Satoshi Nakamoto. We only have evidence. We only have certain statistical, certain metrics and certain proof that we think it might be Satoshi Nakamoto, but it's not 100% certain that he even has that. It could be just some completely different person, 100% possible. And so if you look back at who it likely is, Satoshi Nakamoto, it's about 1 million Bitcoin, 968,000 Bitcoin to be correct. And he dominated early mining and he stopped mining when Satoshi disappeared. Like another proof that this is actually Satoshi Nakamoto's, and the coins have never moved. I think people sent Bitcoin there. I think there is like, it's public, and I think people actually sent Bitcoin to the address. I remember something going on like that in the earlier 2025. I could be wrong here, but this is something really interesting because there's this 1 million Bitcoin that have never been moved, and it's huge. And we probably know it's Satoshi Nakamoto. So it's why it matters that they have never been moved is no pre-mine. So there's no like, hey, I have this coin and I actually have 1 million Bitcoin and here you get the other 20 million. That's not what Satoshi did. He was even so fair to burn the first 50 and to actually give advantage to the people that early are in. And so the distribution of Bitcoin is the fairest possible way. Really interesting stuff. And so it strengthens basically the Bitcoin's credibility and fairness. This was a short deroute from our actual topic. We have here the coins of Satoshi or Patoshi, 4.6% of the supply. This is 1 million Bitcoin that's just there. So that's around like 4.6% of the supply. Then we have other entities. 1.4% of the supply includes bankrupt estates and Bitcoin on DeFi or smart contracts. We don't know exactly what those are, but most likely those are individuals. Like the other entities could be companies, but also could be individuals. Let's move on. Then we have here the lost Bitcoin. This is an estimation. So again, very important. We do not know how many Bitcoin are lost. There could be almost non-Bitcoin lost. There could be way more Bitcoin lost. We just don't know. We don't know if Bitcoin haven't moved for 10 years, they could be lost. We could even say there has been Bitcoin lost that haven't moved in a month, and maybe we just don't know that they have been lost. Or maybe they get cracked up again with quantum computing as the FUD is going on currently in the world. So just to like really get it in the mind, this is an estimation and not exact numbers how many Bitcoin are actually lost. Could be actually that it's not 7.6% of the supply, but maybe it's just 3% supply, and the rest of the 44% supply are OGs that are holding the Bitcoin and are individuals. Now, the next portion of the supply is the individuals. The individuals have 66% of the supply. These are the OG holders that are, this is you and me, these are all the Bitcoin that are held in self-custody and they in individual hands. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they probably also calculated exchanges in there that hold four individuals. I'm pretty much sure, but I haven't actually researched that. I just realized now, but I'm guessing so. Then there's businesses. There is 6.2% of the supply is held by businesses. 3.2% of the supply is actually owned by strategy, which is crazy to think about that. I think I heard that stat a lot. Like about half of the supply is owned by businesses is owned by strategy currently. Let's see if that continues like that. I still have a strategy stream prepared. Now, the next one is ETFs and funds. Now, this is an interesting one because I know a lot of individuals that buy Bitcoin through IBIT, that buy Bitcoin through Bitcoin ETF. I don't like it. I would like them to own Bitcoin in self-custody, but that's just the case that there are a lot of people that actually buy the Bitcoin ETF, and they are also individuals. So to say all ETFs and funds are non-individual is also wrong. So there's actually more so my point is there are more in the individual bucket than like in the non-individual bucket. Then there's governments, 1.5% of 1.5% of the supply, and then there is to be mined. So there's like some Bitcoin actually mined there's still some Bitcoin to be mined in the network. It's not completely finished yet. Let's move on. Now, there's another question in there, especially also from newcomers coming in, like, is the $10 million Bitcoin price even possible? Is this something that we can actually reach? And yes, I 100% believe so. And there we can, again, look at something that actually Saylor brought up. And I'm not the biggest fan of any kind of predictive model put on top of Bitcoin. There's the power law. There was the stock to flow model of Plan B. There is from many different people, like ARK Invest, for example, with Cathie Woods has their own model. Michael Saylor has their own model. Like there's probably like hundreds, maybe even thousands of different predictive price models out there for Bitcoin. I think the most known one currently is probably the one from Saylor and the power law. And the power law and Saylor's model actually are quite similar. I actually made one or two podcasts already around that, how close they're actually tracking. So this is something he shared in a recent, he has lost connection to his screen share. Oh gosh, am I no longer possible to share my screen? Okay, I think hopefully you guys still see that, because my streamer just told me that you guys can no longer see the screen share, but you guys see this from Michael Saylor, right? The $30 million case. Yeah, I'm just assuming that people see this now. Now, this is the famous 2024 Bitcoin price forecast of Michael Saylor, and he has a whole model around that. So it's not just a picture; it's actually like a full thing that he published. This is I just see. So this is the Bitcoin price with a bear base and bull case. There's always like the stock mind is always making a bear case, a bull case, and a base case. He's predicting a $30 million case actually in 2045. 2045, granted, is quite far away. It's 20 years in the future. If you're now, let's say, 60 or 70 years old, you're like, wow, that's like a really far in the future. I like to look actually at 2045 because just of my age right now. I'm 27, so in 20 years, I will be 47. So it's, for me, it matters more where Bitcoin is in 20 years than where Bitcoin is in 5 years or 1 year, I really don't care that much anyways, because I'm not gonna spend my stack. I'm having a positive cash flow every month, so I'm just keep stacking, and it doesn't really matter. If you're not planning to sell or to leverage your Bitcoin, which I do not do, then the short-term price just doesn't affect you at all. And this is the kind of the base case of like, will Bitcoin be at between 3 million, 30 million, or 50 million? Now, I 100% on honesty think Bitcoin will be a lot closer to the 50 million than to the 3 million, like a lot closer. I think we will probably be around 20, 30 million. Mainly because I think the US dollar will be a lot worse off than it is right now. So with those models, I'm always asking myself, how much inflation did they factor in? And they probably haven't factored in enough inflation. That's always my point. It's like, have you factored in inflation? Yes or no? If you haven't, your model is completely BS. And if you have factored in inflation, you probably haven't factored in enough inflation. As Larry Lepard says, the big print is coming. Now, here, the first comment kind of goes in the same category as I just said. Cypherdin said, I had no idea you were so bullish on US dollar surviving another 21 years, Michael. And this is always what I'm also thinking. Like, if you have such a long distance, I would be highly surprised. I would be massively surprised if the Bitcoin, if the US dollar is still around in 21 years, or now it's 20 years, in 20 years with a similar purchasing power. I'm not even talking about the same one. Same one is like, we will have not even the same in 2026. I'm talking about a similar in the range one. I have to believe that in 2045 we do not have a US dollar in the current form. Maybe it has a different name or something, but this is something for another day. Now let's look at what Michael Saylor is actually doing right now. What is he doing? What is, like, he has a conviction, and what is he doing right now? The thing that he's doing, and I see it on every Sunday, I look through my tweets and I every time see this, like not every Sunday, obviously, but like most Sundays. And he says here, I can show this you guys. He says here, green dots, BChat. I have no clue what this word means. I had to look it up. So I also have no clue how to actually pronounce it. But I will just say it BChat. Green dots, BChat, orange dots, which means green dots and then the orange dots are coming, which he always says when he puts out the tweets out on Sunday and saying like, hey, we need more orange dots. This means he will buy Bitcoin. So it's very fair to say that tomorrow Michael Saylor and strategy will probably, not sure, but probably be announcing another $10,000 Bitcoin buy. Now, how does this actually make sense? Like, how does this actually matter for Bitcoin? There is now a big buyer in the market that will buy Bitcoin constantly, no matter what happens. And this is not the only one. There's like more and more companies coming into the space with Jack Mallers. I also will do a deep dive on him because I think his company could have potential in the future, but I'm not sure. I have a lot of questions to what actually 21 XXE will actually do in the future, but that's a whole nother topic. But there's a lot more companies. And I think the biggest transformation is actually not those treasury companies like Saylor or Jack Mallers or many others like MetaPlanet, for example. MetaPlanet is also an interesting one in my opinion. But the real transformation is big to small to medium-sized companies that have a profitable business model that just stack Bitcoin. I have connections to all the Bitcoin exchanges here in Europe and Austria and Switzerland and Germany, and they all have a department for business. And I've talked to those people, and they all tell me the same thing. Robin, you would be surprised how many small and medium-sized businesses that you know of are very bullish on Bitcoin. They just don't tell anyone because they don't have any upside by telling anyone what strategy they have in the public market. And so I so if you have a medium-sized business, let's say you have like a small business, like a metal industry business that does a few $1 million in profit each year. What are you doing with those profits? You have to put it somewhere. And now you discover Bitcoin and you put those profits into Bitcoin. If you put it in Bitcoin, why would you tell anyone? If you're a private company, you don't have an upside. If you're a public company, yes, you have an upside because maybe you are attractive now to a new investor base. But if you're a private company, what is the real value? Yes, maybe you win customers, maybe like Steak and Shake, that they're like announcing it and now Bitcoiners are coming actually to the shop. But I'm not sure this transforms to all of the industries. So maybe you are B2B, then you have even less to get advantage of, because like how many companies are there that buy things just because you put Bitcoin on the balance sheet? Like I, as a customer, care if they are accepting Bitcoin, but I don't care if they put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Like I'm, as a customer, if I now go in a restaurant, I would really love and I really care about them accepting my Bitcoin, but I'm not caring that much about, hey, like, are you putting those Bitcoin on the balance sheet? It's not, it wouldn't attract me as a customer just as if they put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Medium of exchange, accepting Bitcoin is a different story. And so they kind of, there's not a lot of upsides to, as a private company, to announce that you have Bitcoin on the balance sheet. But there might be some downsides to it. Maybe employees see it as a negative thing. Maybe investors see it as a negative thing. Private investors, maybe. There's like many different things that maybe is a negative thing. Yes, you can also make the argument, hey, maybe it's a good thing for all of those cases. But there is not a lot to gain or a lot to lose if you say it publicly. So like, why just not say it? Like, why just not announce it? Why would I announce it? And so all that long story is to say, I think there's a tremendous amount of small and medium-sized businesses, especially family businesses, that are run by one person or like a small group of people that have a lot of Bitcoin. And this is major. This is huge. And so, yeah, Michael Saylor's strategy is like the top of the cream. It's like the elite. And then like there's a bunch of other smaller ones, which is really, really important to see. Now, what else does he say? I think he is signaling a lot around banks, what banks are actually doing with him. Now, this is almost like a Michael Saylor stream, I just realized. And but he's signaling a lot around banks. He puts those pictures out in the JP Morgan headquarters with Morgan Stanley in the lobby with all those banks. And he, again, this was from the same podcast where he said, so this was here, let's see. So this is the same podcast as this here. So this is from the same podcast. Just if you're wondering where this is coming from, you can look the full podcast up. I think it's like around 40 minutes long. I highly recommend the watch. Is a really good one. And so he says, Michael Saylor, I meet with all these banks. I went and met with the CEO of Bank of America and I pointed out, this is a great opportunity and you're missing it by having a vague, ambiguous anti-crypto policy, and he should intervene, and he did. Now let's see what he actually said. And this is this is just another small thing. Like we are searching as a, oh, there was no sound. There was no sound. Oh gosh, why was there no sound? I'm super sorry. But I think he just said what I already pointed out here. So if you want to know what he actually said, he said like he meets with all these banks, and he went to meet with the CEO of Bank of America, and he pointed out that this is a great opportunity and you're missing out by having a vague and anti-crypto policies, and he intervened actually. And now there are a lot more banks out there, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and like hundreds, maybe even thousands of others. And he's meeting with all of them. And this is just like the breadcrumbs I'm getting. Like Michael Saylor and Strategy are meeting a lot with banks these days, like a lot. And what does this actually mean for Bitcoin? What does this actually mean for Strategy? I personally think that he will bring up some really interesting products, maybe even like lending services. I think Fong Lee pointed out, like signaled a little bit in this direction, which was just like very fun to see. Now another thing another thing that's really interesting is, does he ever have to sell? Is he at any point in time needing to sell Bitcoin? Because this is the question. Okay, if you have now like over 600,000 Bitcoin, you might get to like 1 million Bitcoin, or like to 700 or 800,000 or whatever it is. Do you ever have to sell Bitcoin? And in the beginning, actually, before I started my research into Strategy, I believed so. I believed that he probably has to sell at some point, or he might have to sell at some point if something happens. But actually no longer believe so. I research Strategy more and more, and I believe that they could run a nice, profitable business and do not have to sell their Bitcoin for a very long time, maybe never. Let's see. And Matt Hogan actually pointed it out. And I saw this just a couple of, oh no, it's actually from the day. 2 days ago. Yeah, a couple of days ago, from Matt Hogan. Here it is. He pointed out that, yes, at first glance, as I also pointed out, you almost think like, yeah, at some point, like he probably has to sell. But he doesn't. So he actually can just like not sell the Bitcoin. Here, let's see. Hopefully you guys can hear it now. Let me know in the comments if you cannot hear this, but I'm trying my best to make it work, even not in my usual studio. I should also share the right tab. I'm super sorry, guys. Mm. What the heck? There's no. Okay, we will try that once again. Hang in with me. I will stop sharing here, and I will reshare now. Let me figure that out. I'll try it once more, and otherwise I will just tell you what has been said in there. Let's see this here. Let's click here. Now, one more test to see if the sound is working now. Otherwise, I will just tell you about it. We have everything set up. It's sharing. Let's go. Please let me know in the chat if it's working now.
It's absolutely true. There's this meta in crypto Twitter, in the broader traditional media, that MicroStrategy will be forced to sell its Bitcoin. And I think it's such simplistic thinking. The thinking is MicroStrategy has debt, and it's used it to buy an interest that generates no cash.
Okay. I have no clue why. I did the same thing as before, and
cash flow.
Oh,
and eventually that doesn't work. Like, sure, that's true if you stretch it to infinity. But the thing about debt is you can actually look at it. And when you actually look at it, here's what you see. Every year, MicroStrategy has to pay $800 million in interest. It's sitting on $1.4 billion in cash. Therefore, it has plenty of cash for the next 18 months. Okay, that's literally invalid for as far as the market can discount.
I actually found it very interesting and actually very nice to see that they bought US dollars with like a share thing. I found that to be actually a very good move. At first, it was weird to see. A couple of, I think, a couple of 2 weeks ago, they bought 1.3 billion. What was it? 1.3, like something around those lines in fiat reserves. They now also have a fiat reserve. And at first, I was like, why are they doing that? Why are they buying fiat and not Bitcoin or anything else? Like, what is going on? And just a couple of days after, I was in Abu Dhabi and saw Saylor's presentation around what he's doing and explaining kind of why. And it's so genius because this is the security, 1.44 billion. By the way, I think I have like a 10-second delay set in the YouTube settings. So don't, it's just like if you have a comment, I probably see that like 10 seconds after, something like that. But yeah, 1.44 million of 1.44 billion US dollars, which is incredible. And this is kind of the safety net. So they can pay out all those yields and pay back the debt and the interest payments that they have to kind of cover for a very long time, even if for some reason the business no longer turns a profit. So I think it's a genius move. I think it's a really great move for the security of the business. But again, I will make an interesting deep dive in strategy. I want to do more research before I do that. I want to make that video really well worth watching for people that know Bitcoin. Coming from a purist, like I'm the biggest Bitcoin purist ever. Like I want Bitcoin in self-custody and nothing else. So coming from me and seeing like actually how do I look to Bitcoin from a purist standpoint and why I actually bought some strategy and why I think strategy could be one of the biggest, if not the biggest company on planet Earth at some point. Could be interesting to see the perspective, because I think all the other ones in the strategy and the treasury space are not as pure like the self-custody play and all the other things. I mean, you can make the argument like Jack Mallers is also one of like a very pure Bitcoiner, but like, yeah, you get it. I'm really looking forward to putting that in-depth analysis out there. Now, let's see what he has to say further.
The second is it has $8 billion in debt against $60 billion in Bitcoin. For starters, that's not very much debt against a lot of Bitcoin.
This is a thing that I think especially Bitcoiners or like people that are not as familiar with TradFi and the fiat system, strategy does not have a lot of debt. If you look at like what normal companies have on debt and what strategy has, it's not that much.
But then if you look at the actual debt, none of it comes due until 2027. And in 2027, $1 billion of debt comes due. It will have to either refinance or pay that down. But the idea that it's going to have to sell $60 billion of Bitcoin, there's just no world in which that's true unless Bitcoin falls 90%. And if Bitcoin falls 90%, we're not worried about MicroStrategy, right? We're all looking for other jobs. So I just think it's...
Yeah. I will just keep on doing what I'm already doing. This is actually a good one here from Sandy Spa. Sandy Star. I don't know how to pronounce that username correctly. If Bitcoin goes to about 5,000 US dollar and stays there for 30 years, and if they cannot refinance the debt, then they might have to sell some Bitcoin. Chances of that ever happening are slim to none. Very true. Like this is all their chances of actually having to sell some Bitcoin are so slim that it's like almost nothing in my humble opinion. what is going on here? Jeff Walton, great guy, by the way. He recommended, Jeff Walton was the guy that recommended, he saw the post that I made now a standing desk in my normal studio. And he said, like, buy a mat, I don't know, ergonomic mat for your floor to actually stand up there nicely. And I did that, and it's like 100x better. So Jeff, if you see that, like, thank you so much. Like that was really a nice advice from you. Jeff Walton at Strive came up with the US dollar reserve idea, and strategy followed 1 week after. Oh, that idea came from Jeff Walton? That's genius. That's freaking awesome. Yeah, I met him briefly also in Abu Dhabi. Great guy. Now, this is all freaking interesting stuff. And I want to close with one more video before we get into the Q&A session. As I promised to you guys, after every stream, I want to make it just like a quick Q&A and see what's kind of going on in the chat more closely as I try to handle those two things. As it's the strategy or the Saylor live stream today. Here, he made an interview with Alex Thorne, I believe. And this was another very good interview, actually, of him. And he pointed the obvious out, the obvious that is currently going on. And I just wanted to share it with you guys right now.
Too useful. Our mission is create the digital credit, but we have an incredibly compelling partnership opportunity or a partnership proposal. If you're the most digital forward bank in Australia, you want to create digital money in Australia, I have a deal for you.
Interesting.
Right? If you're the most ambitious bank in the Middle East and you want to create digital money, well, the first bank that does it is going to attract $1 trillion of capital. Do you want to be that bank? Do you want to be that city-state? Right?
Yeah.
Some people, some city-states.
And then we also have to remember all the breadcrumbs he already left for us. All the banking pictures, all the things he says about banking. It's tremendous. There's something huge coming with strategy and banks. Like, I'm 100% certain. This is not just, he's not just randomly talking about banks all day long, all of a sudden.
We'll miss it. Yeah. You've got nations that are more concerned about losing control. They would rather shut down the technology because they're afraid it might be too useful. Right?
Yeah.
So you have some that won't move. You have some that don't even get it, right? They don't even notice it's happening. You know, what is the digital asset thing anyway? What is this good for? And they're like digital beanie babies, right? And then you have some people that get it. It's like, oh, money moving at the speed of light, economic immortality, and maybe we can program it to think 1 billion times a second, right? And I think that the ones that get it, now it's going to be a competition. There's going to be a question of who wins. And it's team sport. You need the bank. You need the bank regulator. You need the fund manager. You need the partnerships.
Right.
Right. And then you need to coordinate, you know, all of those. And then there's a technical component, and there's a question of, are you willing to take a risk and can you market it? And, you know, and the likelihood that is that most people will be followers, but there's always going to be a leader, you know, or a couple of leaders. And this is a battle for the future of money. And we're talking about, you know, easily $200 trillion up for grabs there, but it's going to be $400 trillion in 10 years. And
Yeah.
whoever actually creates digital money is going to grab 10, 20% of it for sure. You won't convince everybody. There's going to be a world of people who are going to think, well, I just don't trust that. That's too good to be true. But, you know, roll the clock back. When people talked about Bitcoin, they're like, yeah, well, it won't work. Oh, well, if it works, it's too good to be true, and the government will take away from you.
I mean, eventually the horse-drawn carriage pilot still buys a car one day.
But imagine a world where 10% of that money flows into digital funds and digital banks and digital, you know, digital bank accounts. And that's a profoundly disruptive world. And we will create the Switzerland of the 21st century. It'll be the world banking capital. And I'm hopeful it's in the U.S. I think, I don't know why it wouldn't be in the U.S., but if it's not in the U.S., I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't pop up in the Middle East, because if you appreciate technology and you understand digital assets and you appreciate banking and you like money, The most profound idea I have for you, it's why don't you just attract all of the capital in the world into your bank, into your state? Because Lord knows right now the traditional 20th century banking establishment has a proposal, which is give us your money and we'll give you nothing.
Yeah.
We're going to all.
Sorry, guys, that I stop here, but I just love that because this is literally the banking system right now. I have to pay for my bank to actually have my money. It's ridiculous.
Offer you return-free risk for all of your assets. You're taking duration and credit risk that does not offset, with yield that does not offset the duration risk and the credit risk. So pretty much you have hundreds of trillions of dollars, which is returning, inflation adjusted nothing.
This is it's such a great thing, and also Busy Mikey wanted to have the link. That's the link. Probably if you are now seeing this in the replay and you cannot access the chat, I think you can still access the chat, but you just like make a picture with your iPhone and like actually like copy it out, so you can see that post also there. This is really interesting, and if you think about it, what he's basically laying out here is that you can either adopt Bitcoin or you die. If you are a bank right now, so Bitcoin is not here to replace banks. Bitcoin is here to replace central banks. And it's still a question to come if it replaces banks. I personally think probably not. People still want to have financial services and banking services and the convenience of like some central party that helps them with the custody of Bitcoin, with financial services on top of Bitcoin, with all that stuff. So I do not think that Bitcoin completely eliminates all banking systems. I just do not think that. Maybe all the traditional banks going bust and there are new banks coming on top. Maybe JP Morgan goes bust and Strategy Bank might be the new bank of the world. But Bitcoin replaces the central banking system. There's a very important difference there. And I think this is the future that we are kind of heading towards, because I just see it in the environment. Like, it's so hard to get people into self-custody, like so freaking hard. And I think I actually saw that somewhere in the chat. Someone asked me that. Let's just see the chat and see what's going on here. For like a short Q&A session. First of all, Merry Christmas, Robin. Happy holidays. Yes, I'm home. I'm with my family. I will still do every single day, a short live stream. But yeah, Merry Christmas to you all and happy holidays and a great 2026. It will be really cool. But we will speak anyways sometimes already before that also. They will probably nationalize strategy. There's actually something I'm not sure of, like, because if you think about it, yes, the order 6102, like that had been happening with gold. If you think about it, can the same thing be happening with Bitcoin? And what would be the likely situation how it will be happening? The thing is, would they nationalize strategy, or would they nationalize maybe Coinbase, or would they maybe nationalize BlackRock? Like how would they go ahead and get the Bitcoin if they even do that? Now, I don't think of that as a huge risk, because if they really nationalize strategy, this will only happen if they pay a good amount of premium. So it will not be like, hey, you have, let's say, 100 grand into strategy shares and they are now zero. That's not how I think this will ever happen if they do it. But what could be happening is like, hey, why don't I give you 120 grand for your strategy and I'll buy you out, and we nationalize strategy. And then you get a bunch of fiat and you can convert that fiat back to Bitcoin, a win-win. I'm still I'm still not decided on like if this will happen or not. I'm not sure like what's the strong argument here. I can see both sides, but at the same time, like it, if it's happening, what can you do? Like just hold Bitcoin in self custody. That's why I always say most of your Bitcoin should be in self custody and not with strategy. I do not think 80% strategy and 20% Bitcoin strategy, 80% strategy MSDR and 20% Bitcoin strategy is not the right strategy. The right strategy is 80% Bitcoin and 20% or less than that in strategy. I don't even have like 2% I think in strategy. Like I haven't checked the values recently, but my plan is to maximum have in treasury companies combined maximum 5%. If they grow more than that, I'm not sure I'm off and rebalance to Bitcoin, or if I just don't want to have more than 5%, maybe maximum of 10% if it just like shoots up crazy and outperforms Bitcoin. Then yeah, like then that. What's up, Bitcoin? What's going on? I'll just let that here. Not going to comment on that too much. Thank you so much. Great stream. Yeah, really cool. Thank you so much. How many will Saylor announce have been removed from circulation tomorrow? I'm guessing another 10K. Yes, I kind of already answered that, but this was probably already before I said that. Yes, I'm guessing another 10,000 Bitcoin. And this is another Bitcoin that has been removed from the circulation forever. The massive big print that will come in the next couple of months, maybe in the next couple of years, and the limited supply that is available on Bitcoin, like those two things have a magical face-ripping possibility of a bull run. I think, as I said, 2026 will be a massive bull run. I don't understand the fear of quantum. Few states or large companies will have access. Yeah, like the fear of quantum. The fear of quantum is overly exaggerated and just not there. Like I don't understand it at all. What's your what's your self-custody setup, Robin? I took very good care of my self-custody. I don't fear that anyone will rob me. I don't think this will be happening. I'm not a huge fish. I got into Bitcoin late. I don't have many Bitcoin. I'm not a huge target. There are way bigger targets and way bigger OGs in the space that are also known. So I'm not on the top list of like targets. I'm not at all. But I prepared for that. I prepared for that. And I probably overspent and I probably over-engineered. But I can just tell you that I went through all possible situations and tried to come up with good answers and good solutions for that. And there are really great advices out there that you can follow to that. Now, a few things that I might be able to show you guys is a device that I love and I really got to love is Microseed. I just short the story. I just want to give you a short story around that. I was in contract and I advertised actually Stampseed, and I loved Stampseed. I had a Stampseed at home, but then Daniel from 21E15 or now Microseed, this was the previous company name, came around and said, "Hey, Robin, I have this kind of a thing." And he came to me to Vienna and actually teach me how to play golf. I'm terrible at that. And he actually taught me how to play golf. And at this point, I looked at this device and I was like, that's so genius. Like, why haven't I thought about that? And I basically said like to Stampseed, hey, I want to promote the best tool possible. And I love this Microseed thing. And I work together with Microseed now very closely. I'm even a co-owner of the business. And this is just a dramatically different device from everything out there. You can make as many seed phrases as possible as you want. and you only have to buy the device once. Now, this is a kind of a marketing or like a business problem that we have is once you are a customer of a Microseed, we no longer see you. You buy that Microseed and you never have to visit our website ever again. You just have it, and this is the last backup seed phrase you ever need. And now we soon will get an IT security upgrade so that you can put your passwords, your master passwords and all of that onto titanium, on a washer, and you can hide it anywhere. So it's I'm massively bullish on Microseed for the future, not even only in Bitcoin, but also in IT security. Every freaking company should give a Microseed to the IT infrastructure and give the and let the employees come to the IT infrastructure and say, hey, put your password on titanium and hide it. Yeah, but that's a whole nother thing. Yes, I'm on. Oh, wait. One thing more that I want to show you guys is where is it? Here it is. Is it here? Robin. Yes, this is it. This is another thing. If you have questions around self-custody, if you ever wonder like how should I actually set it up, those guys will help you. I love those guys, the Bitcoin Way. Tony was already 3 times on my podcast. He's a great Bitcoiner, very pure, very nice. And he even pushed me that I accept Bitcoin. He was the reason why I accept Bitcoin and earn Bitcoin now. And now I'm only earning in Bitcoin. Yeah, just a great guy. I want to share this with you guys in case you're wondering what to do. Now I'm on Nostra. Yes, you can find me. I think if you just like type in my name, and I might just put my pub key in future live streams in the link in the description, just so it's verified and all of that. When Bitcoin was $500, people wondered if 10K was ever possible. This is the thing, yeah. Like we don't even get how massive Bitcoin will be. We always underestimate. In the history of finance, in the history of the world, every single person always underestimates how huge a new technology will actually impact the world. I mean, I always bring that example of the printing press up. The printing press was so underestimated in the first 5 to 10 years of everyone that saw it. Only later, millions and millions of copies were made with the printing press, and then all of a sudden, Martin Luther and like other things in the revolution actually started, and people started to learn read and write and all of that, like massively. Pronounce like begets. Nice, begets. I like Robin's. Yeah, I love it. It's a meme that I'm Austrian, I guess. Green dots begets orange dots to hodl. Okay. Hi, Yoki. How you doing? Sound. Let's see. Let's see what's going on. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Merry Christmas, everyone. Yes, really cool. 99% Bitcoin, 1% strategy. That's the right one. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. This was a really cool first Christmas episode in my Christmas home, I guess. Thank you so much, guys, for listening and watching. And as always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye.
This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.